A garden hose sticking out of a warehouse in Central California. A community news website receiving instructions through encrypted WeChat messages. A so-called service center hidden inside office buildings in San Francisco and Los Angeles. Individually, they look random. Bureaucratic oddities, weird local stories buried beneath celebrity gossip and political theater. But when you connect them together, you start seeing something much bigger. A long-term foreign influence campaign operating quietly across the American West Coast. This last week, Arcadia Mayor Eileen Wang resigned after federal prosecutors accused her of secretly operating as an agent for the Chinese government. And if you think this story starts and ends with one city council office in California, you're missing the real picture entirely. Tonight we're tracking the infrastructure behind what federal investigators increasingly describe as a deep coordinated influence and intelligence network operating inside American communities. This is the silent invasion.
From Seattle to Los Angeles, this is Left Coast News. No apologies, just the truth.
Welcome back to Left Coast News. For years, Americans were told foreign espionage looked like Cold War spy movies, dead drops, microfilms, embassy agents. But modern influence operations are different. Today, the battlefield is local government, local media, community organizations, university systems, technology networks, social media ecosystems. And the West Coast has become ground zero. Not because people here are uniquely evil, not because every immigrant is a threat. That's lazy thinking and frankly dangerous. The reason is strategic. California, Washington, and Oregon sit on top of America's tech sector, aerospace industry, Pacific military infrastructure, and political pipeline. If a hostile foreign government wants leverage inside the United States, this is where they start. Let's start with Arcadia. Federal prosecutors say former Mayor Eileen Wang wasn't just spreading opinions favorable to Beijing. They allege she knowingly operated as an unregistered foreign agent. According to court filings, Wang and her former fiancé, Yaoning Mike Sun, operated a website called U.S. News Center between 2020 and 2022. To casual readers, it appeared to be a local Chinese-American community news. But investigators say it functioned as a propaganda outlet directed by officials connected to the People's Republic of China. Through encrypted WeChat communications, Wang allegedly received direct instructions on what stories to publish and how to frame them. Some of the articles specifically denied allegations of forced labor and human rights abuses involving the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. In one exchange, prosecutors say Wang replied to a Chinese official, "Thank you, leader." That phrase matters because it shows the relationship investigators believe existed, not journalism, not cultural outreach, but obedience. And this is the part Americans need to understand. The concern isn't just propaganda itself, it's placement. Federal intelligence agencies increasingly warn that China's United Front strategy focuses on cultivating influence at the local level first. School boards, business associations, city councils, county commissions. The philosophy is sometimes described as using the local to surround the central, meaning influence future national leaders while they're still politically vulnerable. And Arcadia matters because it's proof the strategy works. Wang eventually became mayor through Arcadia's rotating leadership structure, not because she was some master criminal mastermind, but because local politics often receive almost zero national scrutiny. That's vulnerability. While political influence operations were building soft power, investigators uncovered something far more disturbing. Physical infrastructure networks operating quietly inside American cities. The Reedley Biolab case should have been one of the biggest national stories of the decade. Instead, it disappeared from headlines in about 3 days. Goldfish attention span civilization strikes again. In late 2022, a code enforcement officer in Reedley, California noticed a garden hose sticking out of a supposedly vacant warehouse. That tiny observation triggered the discovery of a clandestine laboratory containing HIV, tuberculosis, malaria, hepatitis, freezers labeled Ebola, nearly 1,000 genetically modified mice engineered for infectious disease research, not at a university, not at a federally licensed research center, inside a warehouse operating with virtually no biosafety oversight. Investigators linked the operation to Jiabei Jesse Zhu, a Chinese national with ties to state-controlled enterprises and over $1.3 million in unexplained wire transfers from Chinese banks. Then came the second shock. In February of 2026, another suspected lab tied to the same network surfaced in Las Vegas after people entering a rental property became violently ill. Hazmat crews reportedly found degraded biological materials and dangerous chemicals improperly stored inside a residential garage. And here's the detail most people missed. Zhu was already in custody, yet the network allegedly continued operating through associates. That changes the story from one rogue operator to possible organized infrastructure. Now pair that with another federal concern: Chinese overseas service centers. The DOJ says these centers operated in cities including San Francisco and Los Angeles under the appearance of community assistance organizations. Officially, they help Chinese nationals renew documents and licenses. Unofficially, federal prosecutors allege they were used for surveillance, intimidation, or repression, monitoring dissidents, pressuring critics, threatening family members back in China. This ties directly into Operation Fox Hunt, the Chinese government campaign designed to pressure individuals overseas into returning to China. And according to human rights groups, hundreds of thousands of people globally were persuaded to return between 2021 and 2022. That's not normal diplomacy. That's extraterritorial coercion operating inside sovereign nations, including ours. So why here? Why California? Why Washington Post? Because this region is strategic. Boeing, Pacific Naval Infrastructure, AI development, semiconductor research, aerospace manufacturing, international shipping, and political fundraising pipelines. And intelligence agencies know foreign governments are playing the long game. Look at the historical examples. Congressman Eric Swalwell and the Fang Fang operation, Senator Dianne Feinstein's longtime staffer reportedly tied to Chinese intelligence contacts, the arrest of Yuance Chen in Oregon for allegedly gathering intelligence tied to U.S. Navy operations, the bribery case involving Navy Petty Officer Wenheng Zhao in California. These aren't isolated incidents anymore. They're pattern recognition. The FBI reportedly opens a new China-related counterintelligence investigation roughly every 10 to 12 hours. That statistic alone should end the fantasy that this is just fear-mongering. And Washington State is not immune. Seattle sits directly adjacent to military logistics, maritime infrastructure, cloud computing infrastructure, aerospace research, AI development pipelines. Meanwhile, local governments increasingly adopt foreign-built surveillance technologies and data systems and AI integrations with limited public transparency. That creates another vulnerability: data access. Because in the 21st century, information itself is infrastructure. Now let's separate something important before the usual professional outrage merchants start hyperventilating on social media. This is not an attack on Chinese Americans. Many of the people targeted by these influence operations are Chinese dissidents themselves. Uyghurs, Hong Kong activists, Falun Gong practitioners, pro-democracy activists. In many cases, they came here specifically to escape authoritarian control. The issue is foreign state influence operating covertly inside American institutions, and honestly, Americans should care regardless of which country is responsible: Russia, China, Iran, anybody. Our Constitution is supposed to guarantee that American policy is shaped by American citizens under American law, not covert foreign pressure campaigns hidden behind nonprofits and friendship associations, which there are many of in the Seattle area. That's why laws like FARA exist in the first place. But the Arcadia case exposes a massive weakness. Most local governments have almost no infrastructure for detecting foreign influence operations. City councils barely audit their own spending correctly half the time. Now they're expected to identify sophisticated international political networks. Good luck. That's a serious national security gap. The story out of Arcadia is not just about one mayor. It's about how modern influence operations actually work, quietly, incrementally, patiently. One local official, one nonprofit, one business association, one surveillance contract, one community news outlet at a time. And by the time the public notices the pattern, the network is already embedded. Americans don't need paranoia, but we do need awareness. We need transparency around foreign funding, transparency around political influence, transparency around organizations performing quasi-government functions on American soil. And local officials need counterintelligence awareness training the same way they receive ethics training. Because foreign influence today doesn't arrive with tanks. It arrives with partnerships, consulting contracts, community outreach programs, media platforms, and people willing to trade public trust for access and money. That's the real story. Thank you for watching Left Coast News. If you believe in independent journalism that actually asks hard questions and follows the receipts instead of corporate talking points, help keep us growing. You can find us on YouTube, Rumble, Brighteon, Spotify, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Truth Social, and Patreon. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video and drop a comment below. The algorithm buries independent channels unless people actively engage, and frankly, the tech platforms aren't exactly lining up to help voices they don't control. Your support helps us continue producing in-depth reporting and investigative analysis focused on the West Coast and issues impacting everyday Americans. And let me know what you think about this. Do you think this is a problem? Do you think this is something we should be concerned about? How about all the communist and socialist organizations in the Seattle and Pacific Northwest area? Do you think they're infiltrated, that they're working actively with the Chinese government, knowingly or unknowingly? Thanks for watching.